All
right. Cue the podcast.
Do y'all get it? Because that's what Heather said when she wanted the idol to drop from the sky. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cue the idol.
There? Yeah.
See what we did.
Good one.
Little reference to the episode. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Guys, stop the applause. Come on, that's enough.
I know. I know.
Today we're recapping episode 9. Sorry we're a little late. Technical difficulties on my behalf. Internet's gone crazy today. We're joined today by Peridiam, as we know him as Billy, but you guys know him as Peridiam. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing? And on a scale from 0 to -5, how much are you enjoying this season?
Oh, is that the scale? Oh no. Well, I'm doing better than a -5, I guess you could say.
Okay.
I'm enjoying the season more than a 0. If a 0 is representative of a 10, I think I don't know, maybe a -2 or so. I don't know.
Okay.
Making sense of this, yeah.
All right.
The better question is, scale of 1 to 10. How devastated were you when Sydney got eliminated a couple episodes ago?
I think that was overshadowed for me by the flashback montage of Xander and Tiffany and Evie and all that. I was more in the moment for that and loving that they did that. You just don't see that on Survivor.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Wait, why? What's up with Sydney? Is Sydney a New Yorker?
Yeah, Sydney lives in my backyard, bro.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. No, the season had a interesting start to it. I think they threw a lot of stuff at the wall to see what would stick. Sometimes it got a little confusing, but I personally have pretty thoroughly enjoyed the last 2 episodes before this, and then this one as well. I thought they were all some solid episodes. I thought a lot of interesting power players made it far. It seemed like everyone who had a chance of winning, in my opinion, made the merge, which is something we don't always see in a great cast so far. But jokes aside, what have been kind of your overall thoughts on the season so far?
Yeah, I would actually agree with you. I didn't really think too hard on that. A lot of the power players made it to the merge. Honestly, on some level, I wonder even how good Sydney would have been. I guess Nasir is a little bit on the weaker end of gameplay level from this merge tribe, but also Nasir's gone, RIP. So, but yeah, this has been a pretty fun post-merge, the last 3 episodes. Once we got rid of that cliffhanger, which I really didn't care for at that merge episode, or that mergatory, whatever you want to call it. Once that ended, that ended the pre-merge on a pretty lame note, I thought. I don't think Survivor US needs to be having non-elimination episodes, personally. I've watched a lot of Australian Survivor, and those are my least favorite episodes. Have you guys seen Australian Survivor at all?
Oh, baby. Yes, we have. Oh, my gosh, dude. I love it.
It's great. It's really fun. I'm currently planning on putting together who I think are the best overall Survivor players for 2021. And so I'm strongly looking into Australian Survivor as well, and best moves, best moments.
So are you looking at only the seasons of 2021, or
just 2021? So I'm looking at South Africa.
Brawn?
Yeah, Brains versus Brawn, South Africa, Immunity Island, and then season 41. So it's just interesting. So right now that's front of mind for me. I was just working on it last night. Looking at nominees, who I would nominate for potentially say best players. Have you guys seen South Africa too?
Haven't seen South Africa, no.
Oh,
if it goes to Paramount, we will watch it, but
it's good. It's a good season. They're pretty good. South Africa is also really good. It's it's kind of more old school US a little bit.
I heard the season was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm actually having a hard time deciding. At the moment, I'd say Survivor US is probably a 3rd out of 3 between Australia and South Africa, but there's still 4 more episodes to go, and if they keep up the pace that they've been going these last 3 episodes, it's possible it could be a contender. So yeah, okay. But I've enjoyed these past 3, and I especially enjoyed last night. I thought last night was really fun for a double boot episode with 2 tribals. It took up half the episode. I was satisfied. I had a lot to chew on, a lot to think about with the moves being made, and how people are working around. Like, I'm a big fan of small tribal councils personally, and so like a 5-person tribal, there's a lot. I think there's a lot to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
nowhere to hide for sure.
Before the season started, we had our sort of preview where we had you and Idle Now and the Survivor specialists on. Who was your winner pick? Were you Team Ricard?
I did pick Ricard in the preseason.
Okay. Now, if you had to pick right now where we're at, who do you think would be your winner pick?
That's like the question of the hour. I was actually going to ask who you guys have it. Like, if you had to put money on one person,
shoot.
we got eight people left in the game. We got 4 episodes. We're gonna have a winner crown in 1 month, and it's like, who would you put money on if you had to put money on somebody? Because I have a name, but I am so cracked out with who I think is gonna win this season at this point that like it's gonna blindside people.
For a while, I would have thought Shan. I thought, because me and Gideon have also been doing like our sort of MVP of the episode, which we'll get to at the end of this podcast. But
Shan had it like 4 times in a row, bro. It was insane.
But geez, since the merge, I feel like she's now one of the most unlikely to win. I just feel like she's rubbing everyone the wrong way. She has a lot of power, and instead of being sort of like Robin Redemption or Kim, where she was kind of like has a lot of power, but was doing a great job of sort of concealing just how much power she has. She's sort of like jumping at the forefront and wants to kind of control everybody's vote and not being very conceited, concealable. I don't know what the word is with it. So I wouldn't pick Chantal. I feel like she's been getting sort of like a Rick Devens type edit. I would have said Evie. I think Xander, if he makes it to like Final 4, I feel like it's going to be very hard for him not to win. I think he has the best resume. But if I had to put my money on someone, I'm sticking with my guns from the beginning, and I'm going to stick with Ricard here.
Oh, okay. What about you, Gideon? Do you have anyone? I'm going to give you guys my answer too. I'm curious.
So me and Adam. So Adam picked Ricard to win, and I said Deshaun would win. And
at the beginning,
at the beginning, and low key, I'm kind of sticking with Deshaun right now. Not because I picked him at the beginning, but he gets screen time. You know, he's in the moves, and he's sort likable. Of like he's likable, and he's the anti-hero to the big and powerful and evil Shan now. So I feel like he's getting that kind of storyline. I feel like he's gonna have to make a move to win eventually. So if he does I think he'll win. But
I was a little bit disappointed. I guess not totally, but like that he was split from Sean. He was split from Shan in the separation of the two teams last night. Because I was like, he probably could have made his move against Shan if he really wanted to last night, but it wasn't there. So yeah, I've been really struggling. I think he would have. I think people are a little bit frustrated because he's been talking about this frustration for the last few weeks with his position in relation to like how Shan is basically the front runner. And I think he's very aware of it, and he's not done anything yet. But I'm like, yeah, but there's like 8 people, and she's one person, and you know maybe it's better to like, you know, she will take him to the Final 4, Final 5 if she can. It looks like, so that's not bad for him. He doesn't necessarily have to take her out right away. I'm in the same boat as you, Adam, in that like I think Shan's for the longest time I thought she was gonna win, but with every episode I keep thinking that this isn't a winner story. This is a like she is going to have a fall at some point. Yeah. And I think that this is not the Boston Rob or the Tony and Cagayan that I've seen before. Right. I mean, to be fair, I didn't think Tony was going to win either in Cagayan back in the day. So maybe it's the same story again, and I'm just like going to miss it, which would be par for the course. And I'm between 2 people. The first one is Deshaun because of what you said, Gideon. I think he could easily take over Shan as per position, take her out. I personally think he's going to take her out, and I think he could easily take her out as early as next week.
I know, dude. I'm ready. I'm ready to see it.
I think honestly, if you asked me to put money, I would put money on it happening. I think Shan's going next week, or maybe Ricard because she is an idol. I think one of those 2 is going. And the crazy thing is that I'm not 100% sure he's going to win regardless. This is going to sound messed up, but I was cracked out last week. I thought Tiffany might have be the winner. She didn't win. I then switched to Evie. I thought Evie might be the front runner. She's out. So I'm basically, and I originally thought Shan, but I just don't feel good about Shan. I currently think that we may get a crazy out of left field winner, and I'm going to say I think Erica might win this season.
Wow.
And you guys are going to hear it first right here. And then 4 weeks from now, when she wins, it's going to be like, oh my God, how did this, what? But
Peridiam, I'm glad you comment. I'm glad you commentate on what happens after Survivor rather than what you think is going to happen. That is wild.
Winner picks, not the video. I don't really make those types of videos very often. To be fair, when I did my true contenders, I said Shan, I said Liana, I said Ricard, and I said Evie. And now here I am, like,
you were
I think on some level, a part of the reputation you get for being on YouTube is that I don't talk all the time. I don't stream on Twitch. I'm not live. So there's a lot of things that a lot of calls or takes I've had over the last 4 years that I just don't make publicly. So I don't have to feel the repercussion of that because I'm not broadcasting it. I'm not always right. So, if Erica loses, which she very easily could, there you go.
I just could you see them giving so little screen time to a winner?
I mean, they did it with Natalie White.
Yeah, but now everybody hates Natalie White and doesn't think she deserved the win. So do you really think they do that again?
To some extent, they did it also with Michelle in that they did show her a lot, but it wasn't very captivating, and they really bolstered up Aubrey. My thing with Erica is that, I'm looking at some of her content. She has her episode 4 breakout confessional in episode 4 when she has that scene where she talks with Deshawn. I don't love it. I didn't love it when I first came across it because Deshawn is like, if you guys can remember, this is way back in the pre-merge, but this is when Deshawn wants to throw the challenge to get her out because he's like, oh my God, she's really smart. She has a high survivor IQ. He has this moment where he literally says, I don't want to give her the opportunity to play slow at the beginning and then emerge at the end and take me out. And I'm like, why are they telling us this in episode 4 if this doesn't, for Deshawn to win, Erica needs to be eliminated. If Erica's still in the game, Deshawn is not the winner, in my opinion, based on that one confessional. It was so ominous. And it literally happens at the 20-minute mark in episode 4. And I went back just for fun, for shits and giggles. And literally at around the 20-minute mark of Survivor Samoa, episode 4, is when Natalie gets her breakout confessional. And she completely undermines Russell. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to ride his coattails and make friends along the way and beat him at the end. And I'm like, it's funny that, I don't think that they're actually doing that. There's no link to it, but
coincidence?
Just funny coincidence that I'm like, I don't feel great about most of the players in the game winning the game. So I'm like, I'm either going to get blindsided 100% or maybe we can catch this blindside before it hits us in the face. And maybe it's Erica. I don't know.
You do make a good point. It's like, I can see so many people winning right now, except for maybe Danny and Heather.
Right. I could easily point out and deconstruct why I don't think Ricard is going to win. He's so tethered to Shan all season that I'm like, what is he doing that Shan hasn't done and isn't getting credit for, really? Even this episode with the move that they made, this was more Shan, even though Ricard did talk about it and did get a moment for it. I'm like, he's kind of in her shadow. Danny's just not around very often. He's just not highlighted. Heather is too invisible. I'm sorry. If there's any under the radar winner, it's not Heather. It's going to be Erica between the two of them.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Shan, I think she's coming for a fall. I think it's going to hit her sooner than later. In fact, I think it's going to happen next week. Liana, way too wrong and a little too cocky about it. A little too one note. Too much on Xander, in my opinion.
I think she might have a crush on him, but that's beside the point.
That could happen. Probably doesn't make too much of a difference for her winner potential. And, there's a what do you call it? A schoolyard rivalry, enemies turn lovers or whatever. I don't know what you want to say, but.
Well, yeah, it's like when, little kids, when they like each other, oh, you're so gross and disgusting, stuff like that.
Yeah. I had a crush growing up in elementary school, and this girl would make fun of me, but it's deep down it turned out she had a crush on me. It's like, yeah, okay, exactly. There you go. Erica says in episode 4, and this is my thing, she has this confessional where she says, to be here on day 8 and have not voted, I don't even have a torch yet. I feel restless. I know I'm small, I'm a sweet person, but I'm actually a lion dressed like a lamb. As much as I wanted to keep this innocent act up, I'm ready to take off that lamb costume and show my teeth a little more. Let's turn things up a notch, get some people out. And then she talks about Sydney, and she's 100% backed up by the edit. Sydney's emotional and slightly erratic. And then she's just gotten positive moments. Like, people keep talking. Shan is like, she's this threat. I'm like, is she? Maybe she's going to start burning bread at the end when she turns into this lion. And one other thing, the merge of Survivor Winners at War, there were 2 animals brought up. And who won? If you guys remember Winners at War with Tony.
The lion.
Right, the lions and the hyenas.
Yeah.
What do you know, next season we get maybe Erica wins and says she turns into a lion at the I don't know. I'm cracked.
You're not cracked. I think it's perfect. I think it's perfectly logical.
It's a little weird. People are like, Luvu can't win. Luvu's too invisible. I'm like, yeah, but like, Natalie White won. Anything can happen.
Yeah, this has been such a weird season.
I think this is a really weird season.
Happening.
I think this is one of the stranger seasons. I'd be curious to see, like, in hindsight, once we know who wins, like, what made the most sense.
Oh, sorry, guys. We're getting some feedback from Adam. He's trying to reconnect. Sorry about that. Okay. Anyways. So, yeah. Do you want to talk about what happened before the challenge?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll wait on Adam, but we can talk about it.
So right before the challenge, what happened before the challenge again?
That was when that's when the conversations were happening, and wasn't it when people were
doing things.
The challenge.
No, I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm just so focused on who the hell's gonna win this season now. I was really thinking it could have been Evie, but then she got taken out. Let's see. Oh yeah, so leading up to this, we had Nasir versus Heather, which was great.
Oh yeah. No, that's what I was thinking about. That was such like a weird moment. Like, I understand like Nasir, you know, being very honest and always saying what's on his mind, but that was a little much.
Yeah, he was correct in like calling out Heather. Heather was trying to downplay her involvement in like getting Nasir out or targeting Nasir. I guess trying to flush his idol, maybe. Which makes sense why Nasir at the end of the episode is now like totally willing to burn Heather. But at the same time, I do wonder if Nasir was a little bit too trusting of the Shan Ricard trio he had there.
Obviously, he trusted a little too hard there.
I mean, I was gonna ask you. There were basically of the 10 players on this episode, I think there were 5 of them who made questionable calls, and calls that you could put into question whether they were good or bad. I think the obvious one is Nasir. He decided not to play his idol, and it not too questionable, but you know.
Nasir, Shan.
You've got Nasir and Shan. You've got Ricard, who are kind of the same. They're one and the same with their move. And then you've got Xander and I think Deshawn.
I was about to say, you were thinking about Deshawn?
Yeah, so for me, the question was it the right move for Shan and Ricard to blindside Nasir and get his idol out and get him out, and also use their extra vote? Or was that like, do you think that keeping Heather around was worth it to get Nasir out and lose his idol? That's one call to ask yourself.
My thing is, right, is like Nasir, nobody around in his confessional listed Ricard as one of his top allies. So I do kind of question the jab to get him out with his idol, because that's a number. I understand, like, you think he's a threat at the end. Like, me and Adam this whole time I've been saying if Nasir gets to the end, it's over because he's just so likable and his story is so great. But to take him out now, I mean, the only way you can justify it is just like, well, Heather's just like, she has nothing.
Mm-hmm. Adam, you there?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we're struggling without you. What are you doing?
Did you guys talk about the hard of hearing scene with Ricard? Yeah.
Not yet. No, not yet.
What'd you think?
Not
I
yet.
thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I was intrigued by it. I thought it was a really. I'm like always down for, just because I spent so much time editing myself. I was intrigued to see the editors do something completely unexpected like that. Yeah. I was curious to see how Ricard felt about it, because I'm like, he's the one who actually experiences this. So I'm like, is this actually how it is, or is? But no, he was on he on Twitter said.
He doesn't hear that as bad as the edit was making it sound, but it's still hard of hearing in his right ear, obviously, and he does have to read lips and read body language and stuff like that, and that's all very impressive. But now the edit, I don't think represented it that well.
Okay, I know he was. I know he had mentioned that he wished the show had talked about his whatever his condition is called, which is called hard of hearing, more. So I'm glad that they gave that opportunity this episode, because it's a big thing for him, and I don't think he definitely doesn't shy away from talking about it. But it's interesting that they had never really brought it up. I know he had mentioned it maybe in one confessional up until now, but I felt like it was a cool moment. It's something that they really haven't done before. So doing like the close-ups on people's lips, and like obviously they were trying to make like a point of view, like so that the audience could experience what he was experiencing, and same as you, Peridiam, from an editor perspective, I thought it was also kind of cool for them to switch it up like that. But it seems like it hasn't affected his game.
I think what they did in the editing is put it into perspective that hearing people could understand how hard it is for him to understand other people. Like, like obviously it's not like sound just fading in and out,
Right.
But I think what I did like is that the editors were putting it into, because us as hearing people, we can't really understand how that is. So I'm glad that they put it into a way where, like, that is challenging that you can't hear out of your right ear. Like, not at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why he's always seated on the right hand side at tribal council, is very intentional. People don't really think too hard about like the seating arrangement when they sit down at tribal, but
absolutely,
I actually think that's like a big part of why I'm like a little more lenient on live tribals, is because if they can't ever get out of their seat, they're stuck to what the producers do with where they sit, and that can be that can strongly determine like who they're able to talk to or strategize with.
Absolutely.
And whisper to or whatever, based on producers decide to put you in the very front row in the middle, and suddenly you are unable to whisper to anyone without it being heard by like 3 other people. I don't know. But yeah, he sits on the right hand side every time because of that.
Right.
Yeah. I was surprised they hadn't mentioned him being hard of hearing yet. I'm surprised it took him this long, because it would kind of give you perspective on, why is he always looking around seemingly, with, he calls them on Twitter crazy eyes, it's like
he has some great, like, just reactionary shots and GIFs of him just looking. He's got a unique look where he's just like he gives you the shady boots, as you would say.
Shady boots, exactly. So I was surprised they haven't talked about that, and then I'm also surprised that they haven't mentioned Chantel's MS yet. I thought they would have mentioned that too.
I actually didn't even know that she had MS.
Yeah, there's an article about it you can read.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
maybe I did know, but it's been like 2.5 months.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean that's another great thing that a castaway overcoming as well. So that was two things. That was 2 things leading up to, as the episodes roll on, I'm like, when are they going to talk about this?
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys mentioned it when I was dipping in and out. I couldn't hear you guys. I joined once or twice, and I heard Peridiam talking in like extreme slow mo. Was like, sure, girl. So I have no clue what you guys talked about while I was gone. But so if you've already talked about this, you can stop me. But Chantel kind of, there's that moment when she's like standing right next to, was it Xander and Erica, and was just kind of like, hey guys, let's go talk over here away from everyone else. And it was the power five, I guess, with Danny, Liana, herself, and we got the Ricard in there too, and Deshawn, which we already knew that was the Power Five, so it's not like anything was revealed, new information bringing them aside, but still kind of like a weird move of her to do that right in front of them. And then I wanted to ask you guys, like, why do you think Chantel's so? It seems like she's so cool with letting Xander stay. There's been like a couple times now where like someone's thrown out Xander and she just immediately is like, no, let's it's too soon for Xander. Because from my perspective, at the moment, Xander, he has the idol, the extra vote, arguably has the biggest resume of any player in the season thus far. Whereas someone like Erica, who Chantel is privy on getting out, while I think she's a good player, she just doesn't have a resume. If anything, the only move she's really done is the back in time move, which probably hurt her more than helped her as far as like winning potential, because a lot of people, the 5 people she screwed, obviously weren't.
I mean, I think she could have gotten voted out though. She didn't do that. I think that was
I think it was the right move, but she clearly doesn't have anywhere near as big of a resume as Xander. So like, were you guys thinking the same thing? It just seems like for some reason Chantel just doesn't see Xander as a threat.
Well, I will say, not to like correct too much, but there was the moment last week where they were going to split the vote between Tiffany and Nasir, and it was actually Shan who said, "I don't like that. Don't put it on Nasir." She's like, "We have to go for Xander." I think. Okay. So it might have been actually the opposite, where she was actually thinking we need to go for Xander. Don't do Nasir, which is a strange contrast to this week where she ultimately did go for Nasir. Although obviously Xander wasn't on the table at that point, but I think for me the most compelling part is just watching the friction play out on deciding who to use as like the split vote plan or the decoy boot between all these different targets they have, knowing that there's for sure an idol out there, knowing Xander has it, knowing that he duped them once at the merge, and then like how do they play around that? And it's also like for me what I found interesting about this episode was seeing the core 4 plus Ricard come together and really draw the line in the sand. I mean, it was very stark how brazen they were. Next, like it wasn't even like sometimes you're kind of like, are they editing so that they're close, but they're not actually that close, but they're supposed to look close? I'm like, no, they're right there, and they're actually talking about how like arrogant they're kind of coming across with Erica and Xander, just like. Do they think we're like idiots? Like they're right there. Okay, I guess they think we don't have. They even said like they must think we don't have the perception or the ability to like round up the people at the bottom. And for me, for a while, we didn't really see who was exactly where in the totem pole. We knew that there was this core 4 alliance, but beyond that, I was like, is Ricard 5th? I know he's close to Shan. Does that mean that he's automatically 5th? So for this episode, it did start to cement like, okay, no, Ricard is 5th, possibly higher even based on next week's promo. And then we've got like the bottom dwellers, which were Erica, Heather, and Nasir of this 8-person majority for a while. And then we saw the Ase 3 at the bottom, and I guess Sydney fit in there somewhere. So I don't know. I do wonder like what's going on with Xander as far as there's certain level of like he is very threatening on paper. I kind of almost feel like he's the term paper tiger, if you know what that means, where he looks more threatening than he might be because he doesn't have any social capital at the moment. And he's basically burned his closest allies for the last 2 votes now. He's let them all walk out the door, I think at this point on purpose. I do kind of wonder if like they want him out, but they're like, we're not going to like throw ourselves on that grenade to get him out. So is he, I don't know, does he have a lot of wiggle room besides winning immunity, playing his idol whenever he does, like Mike Holloway? I don't know.
It's just it's like Peridiam said early in the episode. They're seeing something about Erica to just, strike fear into their hearts. So it might be a case to where Erica's not we're not seeing everything out of Erica, and we're seeing kind of a bloated version of Xander. And, like Peridiam said, they just really aren't that scared of him because he doesn't have social game. But something about Erica.
What's up with that? Why is all of a sudden Erica this like big bad monster that Shan needs to get out? Shan is like Erica has, because last time she said if you go back
puzzles, like
if you go back, Shan actually does say she's like, I think we need to put the votes split up between Xander and Tiffany, right? And then that's now like she's like no Erica now after Tiffany goes, which is a little inconsistent. I don't really understand. And I'm like, where did Erica come from? Like, where did Mary come from? Where did Erica come from all of a sudden to be this like strategic threat that people are like, she's good, like she'll get you. And I'm like, since when?
Right. It's probably true is the funny thing though. If you let her stay in for long enough, she probably would find a way.
Right.
I
don't know if you guys heard.
Yeah.
I would say I don't know if you guys heard the siren. Me and Gideon always, since we're both in New York, we're always trying to see who will who the siren audio will come through. I guess this episode it's myself. Gideon being in Harlem, you'd think it would be him more often, but
I had sirens right before the episode, and I closed my window. So
okay, all right.
Yep.
But we had a classic challenge today. I thought the final showdown between Xander and Deshaun was pretty epic. I think seems like there's been a lot of blowout wins this season. Haven't been a lot of like close ones. But Xander wins. It extends his resume even more with another immunity win, another win. But it's kind of like the question that we get asked pretty much every season, where it's like, do you want to keep winning, trying your hardest in challenges? Because the more you win, the more people see you as a threat and want to take you out. But also, the more you win, the more power you get in those tribals. So I don't know if you guys were Xander. Do you think you would chill?
Absolutely.
Maybe start to chill a bit in the challenges?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No,
yeah,
no way.
I think I'd go for it. I think at that point
you have to.
Knowing you're in a tribe of 5 people, knowing you have an idol in your back pocket, knowing if you win immunity, like there's 2 people at the bottom. I think especially for this episode, I'm like, Xander. I thought he was gonna. Oh, from here on out, does he go for it?
Yes.
I say just try your best. Try to be immune. The best
look, if you play Survivor, I think the best way to do it is go all out for the immunity challenges. And then if there's individual reward, then throw those.
I think Survivor is like so predominantly social at the end of the day that like you deciding to be cute with the immunity challenges and stuff is not as big of a deal. Unless you are literally like Mike Holloway and you have absolutely no allies left to right. It's like the final 9 and you have no choice. Then it's like, you do have to go all out. But I'm like, maybe you don't have to win every single one, but you more than likely aren't going to win or lose Survivor because you didn't win an immunity challenge. So I'd say just go for it and hope for the best. Put your back into it, which I don't know if you guys know, but I'm like, with the Christian, when they did this on David versus Goliath, they did this immunity challenge, right? Christian went for 6 hours.
Yeah, but they told them to put their back on the post.
So they didn't put their back into it. On the David versus Goliath one, they forgot. Exactly. Which is what led Christian and Alec to be able to like stretch more.
Jeff was like, no way I'm fitting to sit here for 7 hours again. There's no freaking way.
He was strict. He was telling this series, like, get your arm around there. I'm not gonna let that fly. Like, and he's like, I can't do it. I can't.
I literally can't feel my arm.
I know.
He's like, I don't care. You're done.
Oh, the great when he's going to celebrate and he tries to clap his hands to celebrate for Xander and Erica and he just misses and then he's like, oh, I can't feel my hands.
Yeah. I know that awkward hug between Xander and Deshaun was great.
It's just like wearing massive bodysuits like sumo wrestlers. They just can't hug each other.
Yeah. Well, after the challenge, like you said, it would have been super interesting if it would have been not split into groups and we could have seen like the Deshaun versus Chantel clash that we thought was coming. Or if they did split into groups, I was hoping that Chantel and Deshawn would land in the same groups and that one of them wouldn't win immunity. And that just didn't end up happening. But one thing I thought was interesting in the tribal council lead up was Nasir goes up to Heather and basically says, you're going home. He kind of says it's one of you guys, but obviously Erica having immunity wasn't going to be her. He says you're going home, which is kind of like, Survivor 101, don't tell people when they're going home. But I thought it was even funnier that Erica then asked Nasir to play his idol for him the day after Heather tried, to switch all the votes onto Nasir. I thought that was a pretty funny interaction, and of course it didn't even end up mattering because Nasir ended up going home. But
there were two of those. There was like Erica just sort of being like, "Would you play it for Heather?" Even the last episode, she created a whole kerfuffle trying to get you out, and then also Liana going up to Xander being like, "Would you give me your idol?" It's like, oh, are we just trying to be pleasant with each other now? Like after you literally in front of everyone tried to steal it with an advantage, like that I had to spend all this time working around, and now you're just gonna casually be like, "Hey, can I have that? Do you mind? Can I have some of that?" Like,
Yeah, remember that idol I tried stealing from you? Can I just give it to me?
There was a lot of like questionable, funny, somewhat sloppy, almost you could say Gabon-esque moments of gameplay this episode where
I kind of liked it.
Like, oh, I love it. I think it's great. I really enjoyed it.
When Liana said Xander had a ugly face or hated his face.
I hate his face.
It's like
I honestly, it's petty. It's what I thought it was pretty amusing. I'm like, you don't get that very often. Like people are very cordial, and I don't mind people being cordial, but it's more fun when there's a little bit more of like animosity. I think you get more of a rivalry.
There's some youngins. There's some youngins on this season, so I'm not surprised you're seeing that. I mean, you got people that are social media warriors coming out on here, man.
One of my favorite episodes is like Tony and Trish and Cass yelling at each other for like 45 minutes straight. And I'm like, the closer we trend to that and somebody yelling in Llama, the better the episode will get. So if it means like Xander and Liana have to hate each other and they're still in the game, like I don't mind. It's not that big a deal. It's just reality TV.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Once again in this episode, Ricard just kind of spits straight facts to Chantel, and Chantel responds by sort of panicking and not listening to him. And in the end, she did. But it seems like this is the maybe third or fourth time this has happened where it just seems like Ricard has such great awareness of where everyone's position is, where everyone stands. And then he goes to tell Chantel about it, and she just is completely off on a different page. Referring to him saying like, "Why are we voting Heather out? Like she has one ally, and it's Erica, who's like probably the second least likely to win. Besides, well, not if you ask Peridiam, but at least the perception on the island, it seems at the moment, is that Erica and Heather maybe have the two least amount of social capital." But Heather obviously has no idol, no resume to speak of whatsoever, and yet she's Chantel's number one target. And I could tell Ricard just wanted to like blow up, and very calmly just like, it doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? But where you have someone like Nasir, and this time it worked. He ended up changing her mind. At first, I thought Ricard flipped and didn't tell Chantel. Like when they were reading the votes.
Okay. At the end. Okay.
Yeah. Like when it was 3 Nasir, 3 for
Heather.
Heather. I thought Ricard flipped and Chantel sniffed that out beforehand and played both of her extra vote and her regular vote on Heather as insurance. But that was totally not the case.
No.
But I don't know. I mean, you guys agree? Chantel seems like she was just at the top for so long, and it just seems like she's like her awareness of the game is kind of. She hasn't been on any rewards, right? So I know her food levels have been pretty low, but.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was pretty smart of Ricard on some level, analyzing like using this extra vote. I do kind of wonder though, because I felt like I didn't. This is the thing where I'm like, it's interesting to see the majority alliance and like what's really happening in that majority alliance. Seeing the 8 people, the 5 Luvu, and then is it 5 Luvu or is it 6? It's 5. Yeah, plus Shannon Ricard and Liana, so the 8 of them. And I'm like, where does Nasir fall? And it turns out I think Nasir was actually pretty damn close to Ricard and Shan. So much so that he was willing to, in a 5-person tribe where only one person of the 4 was eligible to be voted for, he was willing to stake all of his bets, his life in the game, on not playing an idol with 5 people and just cruising to to Heather getting voted out like 3-2 at the very worst. And I thought there's a lot to talk about with like the decision between what Shannon Ricard did. And I do kind of feel like I'm half in the bag, I'm like mixed on what they chose to do by getting rid of him this episode. And it might have consequences, I think, because I don't think Heather's with them at all. But I almost feel like they kind of got rid of like an outlier ally who was loyal to them just because he was likable and he had an idol. So I'm like, if he doesn't have an idol, do you get rid of him? Is that what's the deal? Is it because of the idol that you guys chose to get rid of him? I don't know.
I think so.
What did you think, Gideon? Do you think it was the right call to get out Nasir here, or should they? Because they could have voted out either of them. Both of them were open. They blindsided Nasir, but Heather was there for the taking if they wanted to vote her out.
From how the edit is making it look, I wouldn't have gotten out Nasir because Nasir is my ally and Heather is not my ally. And usually in a game of numbers, you want to keep people that are numbers. I mean, I know, Adam, you might disagree with me, but
I think they made the right move. Nasir, I guess you could say, is an ally, but like Chantel and Ricard have only voted with him at this point. Would it be 2 times? And like, he's not in like the power. He's sort of like a 6th, I guess, of like this power alliance with Danny. So it's like, and maybe they thought that, by saving Heather, she could sort of replace him. And I would rather have Heather as an ally than Nasir because she, I feel like, is just more easily controllable, and she doesn't have an idol. I feel like Nasir was just waiting for like a big moment to make a big move, whereas I think Heather's just waiting till...
Heather's a loose cannon. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but she's a loose cannon with no track. Like, she has no cannonballs in her cannon. You know, she's an empty cannon.
Well, do you honestly think that Heather's now going to switch and align with Ricard and Shan?
Yeah. I think I mean I wouldn't say it's a definite thing, but if you're saying is it a possibility?
If you're Heather and you're in that bottom position, bro, you will take any chance you get, like to scratch.
But I'd rather have her as a rival, as someone on the opposing side than Nasir. Because one, I just think Nasir is a more crafty player. He could have finagled something. And because Nasir had an idol too. I don't know. I feel like it was the right move.
Nasir is too honest. Hot take.
He was too loyal to the most dangerous players, I think, in the game.
Exactly.
I think for me personally, I wasn't that. I'm like, on some hand, I liked. On some level, I liked what they were able to do with like using the extra vote. I do worry though that I could see Heather, because the plan was going to be blindside Nasir 4-1, right? There was 4, and they were going to work with Erica and Heather, and that's what the plan ended up being for Erica and Heather. But Shan took her extra vote and played it against Heather, and played against Nasir, and they both voted for Heather, which was, I don't think, the plan for Heather. Heather's plan was, we're going to go 4-1. Oh, now it's 3-3. Okay, well, obviously, hopefully you guys don't vote me out. They didn't. Okay, so we followed the lines. We followed what our plan was, except I ended up getting 3 votes somehow from you two. So I imagine I could easily see next episode Heather all of a sudden being like, I don't mind taking Shannon Ricard out now. Like, they were willing to potentially throw me to the wolves in the event that, say, Nasir played his idol. We all knew he had it. They had a contingency plan to either protect themselves from Nasir playing an idol or Heather and Erica flipping. That's why they played the extra vote, to prevent Erica and Heather from flipping on them. I don't know if you guys looked into this at all, but it's been like, discussed online for a little bit about like what was the right move, and was it a good idea to waste the extra vote?
That that I thought was not. I'm still kind of figuring out why she used the extra vote.
I can explain it because I've been sitting here parsing through it all day trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
In fact, Shan messaged me
flipped, but
she thanked me because I explained it on Twitter today, basically breaking it down.
Please.
So I figured I just I've seen the initial reaction to it online was people were very thought it was a waste of an advantage. They thought it was pointless because they ultimately got Nasir out anyway. That was the original plan from the get-go to blindside him. Clearly Nasir was going to vote out Heather. He did. So even if he played his idol, it still would have gotten out Heather, who was the secondary target. So like, what do Shannon and Ricard have to gain from using an advantage? And the answer is basically like Monday morning quarterbacking and results-based analysis is very common. It's very easy. But when you're in the moment, you can't do that. If you're any player going forward and you're in that 5-person tribal council and you're in those circumstances that they were in, you can't say, well, results-based thinking doesn't work because the results haven't happened yet. So in that moment, you need to cover your bases as best you can so that in the event that anything happens, like you have to generally assume that the players you're against, especially if you think that they're pretty smart like Erica, they're going to play optimally, or maybe they're going to do something. Like if they don't fully trust Shannon Ricard, Erica even said to us she would like to get Shan out if possible, but she can't because she doesn't have Nasir. So her neck, but Shannon Ricard, this is really Ricard who did the thinking, I think, the arithmetic of it all. They realized that if they both vote for Nasir and put 2 votes on Nasir, Nasir puts 1 vote on Heather. If Heather and Erica decide to take their 2 votes and put them on Shannon Ricard, that creates a 2-2-1. And all of a sudden in a 2-2-1, they go to revote. Guess who can't revote? Nasir can't vote because he's got 2 votes. And Shannon Ricard can't vote because they have 2 votes. So now there's 3 people voting. Erica and Heather control the revote. They could easily vote Shannon Ricard out. Right? Do you guys get that? The complicated. So they're like, hold on a second. If we don't fully trust them, and they know that, and they are like feeling weird about us, there's a very easy play for them to make. Why don't we just use this extra vote to cover our bases in the event that they don't, the event that they do flip? If they do flip, we need to make sure that we don't get egg on our face and like walk out the door with an idol or an extra vote in our pocket. And I was like, on one hand, they did waste it because ultimately it didn't really do anything like special. But then on the other hand, I look at it like, I looked into the history of extra votes, and literally no extra vote has made a difference in the history of Survivor. 0. From Dan Foley to, God, whoever the last one was, I guess it was Aurora and Gavin. Literally 0 extra votes have ever made a difference. Debbie played 2 on Ozzy. Lauren Rimmer got voted out with 1 in her pocket. Kellen played 1 at the merge, around the merge of Ghost Island. Didn't matter. No extra votes have ever mattered. So for me, I'm like, the best thing you can usually do with an extra vote isn't treat it like an idol, isn't treat it like an idol nullifier or whatever knowledge is power is. Treat it like it's like a buffer to like play defense, because you can prevent other people from making moves on you with it by padding the numbers in your favor. People think like if I get to the final 8 and I have an extra vote in my pocket, I can get 4 other people and create 5 out of 4. But I'm like, that's really like, that scenario is so situational, and there's a reason why in 11 seasons it's literally never happened. It's so situational. So for me, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, they didn't get the person out. Like they didn't have the people flip on them like they thought might happen, but that's not a bad thing. They didn't get flipped on by Erica and Heather. So I don't know. It's a little complicated, but I know that this is what they were thinking because it's what ended up happening. And yeah, it's tough to explain like in a way that's like doesn't make it look like they just threw their vote away. But I think when it comes to advantages, it's just that it's an advantage. It's not like it's like you get a little bit of a heads out, a little bit of a lead. You get a little bit of a toy to work with to protect yourself. Worst case scenario, if it happens, they're safe. It didn't happen, but they would have been safe if it did. If Erica and Heather did flip, which they easily could have, they were safe.
Right.
So I'm not too bothered by it. But then on the same token, I'm also worried that because I did do it, it might cause Heather to flip. And I actually think there's a scenario next week where Deshaun flips and Shannon's voted out. So, or Ricard's voted out. With Xander's extra vote, it's funny because I'm like defending this extra vote usage, but then I'm like, there's very rare circumstances where an extra vote's going to tip the numbers in your favor. And I'm like, you know what? I think next week it's actually could easily happen with Xander playing his 2 votes, rounding up Erica, rounding up Heather. Deshaun flips like he wants to. Suddenly that's 5-4. That extra vote is the big difference. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Welcome to Survivor. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think I think Shan and Ricard are definitely the hot seat for tomorrow based on that. Her playing the extra vote and putting votes on Heather and the preview for the next episode. Now the other tribal council I don't think is as complex, captivating,
No,
complex. Is very clear.
I mean,
Deshaun
I think
was the middle.
I think the most captivating part about that tribal council is just that the edit tries to convince you that Liana's going home, like no chance, like anybody else is going home, and they set it up like that, and then ends up being a pretty vanilla.
Yeah. I think the question is, like, at one point, does it boil up to the surface and does Deshaun decide to finally make a move? And was it tonight or is it not yet? Not yet. It's like, all right, not yet.
Well,
but we thought maybe it could happen.
Is Deshaun in the mindset that he just wants to cut off the head of the snake, which is Chantel?
I think he doesn't have, because I think he does have that mentality. He just didn't have the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Because he has the opportunity to take out, somebody who's basically one of Chantel's ankle biters. Yeah, Liana.
Yeah.
But I think that would just make it tougher for him to get out her next week because now she sees it coming.
Yeah.
True.
And she has an idol, and everybody knows it.
Right.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing I was left wondering at the end of the second tribal council was, did Xander just get overconfident and thinking, oh, we have Deshaun, or did he just think it would be better for him to keep the idol but lose his number one? And I think it's the latter. Personally.
I
think it was best for Xander to keep his idol, to be honest.
Yeah.
I did read a little bit of exit press from Evie and from Evie, and from what it sounds like, obviously it's not firsthand. We need to hear from Xander himself, but probably won't happen yet. So it sounds like he actually trusted Danny and thought that Danny and to some extent Deshaun were actually going to vote out Liana.
Huh. Interesting.
So he decided not to burn his idol because he didn't think he needed to. I mean, I'm sure he's partially okay with Evie going because he had 2 different advantages in his pocket, and either one of them would have saved Evie if he wanted to play it. Like he could have played the extra vote, made it 3-3, and that would have saved them because Evie's immune on a revote. But he didn't. I think he is like desperate for some social, social capital. He hasn't had any since they got to, he literally couldn't even vote since episode 2. Like the guy is playing, he's like an observer to this season on the island. He's basically not voting, just winning immunity, can't get voted for, and he's just watching people leave the game every episode. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I think he wanted Evie to stay if he could have had a way and gotten rid of Liana, but I'm also kind of like he's probably better off having his idol at this point for himself, I guess.
Yeah, especially because he's so dominant at challenges, and it doesn't look like there's that many physical threats left. To be honest, I thought probably the one that is Gideon been talking about the only other like well-rounded physical competitor this season, I think, is maybe Nasir. And as soon as he walked in, he noticed he was gone. So it's like, who is really his competition at this point?
I'm surprised Danny hasn't done anything, man. NFL player.
I mean, survivors post merges tend to be like more like endurance and like strength and speed aren't as relevant. At least not in the middle early merge. It's usually like maybe the end game. But even then, like Winners at War had like that ball in the tubes going down. Like that's literally nothing. Like Danny doesn't have an advantage with that. So or like balancing blocks and you have to slowly release the rope. It's like there's really not much a football player is going to make a difference with. So
you're right.
Yeah.
Gideon, do you want to put up the teams so you can check
Yeah.
in?
Yeah. I'd love to do that. If you guys don't know, we did a fantasy draft. I had the first 4 boots on my team, but as you guys can see, I've been making a little comeback as of recently.
We're tied now.
We're tied now. That's right. Tied it up, baby. So yeah, I think you're looking pretty strong though, Adam. You have some power players. I mean, you have the winner Erica on your team.
But I'm saying, maybe Deshaun's it's I feel like Deshaun's the front runner if he takes Shan out. So it's looking pretty split. You got like Gideon looks stronger, I think, on paper, but I think Adam's team could squeak it out, one of them. Maybe Xander.
Yeah, maybe Xander can squeak it out for you. I can't really see Liana winning, to be honest, but
No,
I don't have her winning. I have
who
I'm gonna say Ricard is possible winner.
Who would you guys give if you had to give like an MVP of the episode to? This episode. I would honestly mine. I could honestly see. I mean, I would say Xander if somehow Evie would have stayed without him having to use anything. I think that would have been a huge win for him. If I had to give it to someone, it might be.
Were you gonna say
Erica
Xander
winning
initially?
I'd say he's an option.
He's an option.
I would probably give it to Ricard. I feel like
yeah.
I feel like the whole thing with putting votes on Heather, I feel like maybe that leans more towards Chantel because ultimately she's the one who did use the extra vote. But yeah, this is a tough one. I don't think there was a clear-cut player of the episode.
I feel like this is one of those episodes where it's going to only look better for certain people in hindsight once we know what happens next week. Whereas in the moment, I feel like there was a lot of, like I was saying to Gideon when you were off the call, I was like, there were a lot of questionable calls made this episode from like at least half the cast that you could easily see both sides of the coin and be like, this was good, but also not good. This was bad, but also pretty good. Like I think I'd probably give the MVP to Ricard for putting together that safety precautionary plan, using the extra vote to protect themselves. But I'm also like, in my headcanon and my speculation for next week, it like is their demise.
Right.
But that might not happen. So at the moment, I think just strictly based on this episode alone, I guess maybe on some level it's like Heather survived when she maybe shouldn't have, but I don't know if that was really Heather doing it.
Don't think it was Heather. Don't even think Erica did that much other than sit there as well.
No, it was all Ricard. It was Ricard and most.
It was all Ricard. So that's why I would say Ricard as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Shan didn't want to do it. She did ultimately, but she didn't want to initially.
But was it the first time that someone successfully changed Chantel's minds on a subject?
And now we're like, Ricard might win the season because he convinced Shan to do what he wants. For the first time in nine episodes, he finally got to her. Winner at it.
Winner's at it. Yeah, winner's at it right there.
It's funny how that works. I think this might be like she's been very much digging her heels in the sand all season especially with Ricard. That's why I was a little bit surprised too. Like you said, you're a little bit confused at the end. Like what happened with the split vote? And it's like I think she just went. Believe it or not, she went with what Ricard suggested.
Right.
It's doesn't seem as logical as you wouldn't expect it from Shan, but.
Yeah, I'm glad that they showed that conversation between Ricard and Chantel, and the edit's letting us know who was the brains behind that move. So, I don't know.
We shall see.
Do you guys think that Shan, like we saw in the next time on Survivor for next week, we saw it's looking really heated between Deshaun apparently is targeting Ricard, but Liana tells. We see from these quick moments, Liana tells Shan and Ricard about this, and they're like, "We got to vote out Deshaun." And Deshaun's like, apparently, like he's pretending that he doesn't go after Ricard, but we see that he actually does say that. So I'm like, either they're manipulating it to lie to us, but I honestly think the next time ons in every episode are pretty accurate to what happens next week. It's just a sliver of it.
Right.
Yeah, Ricard is the player of the episode today, but man, he could be gone.
Do you have a prediction
He's
for who goes next? Who gets 8th place?
probably Ricard. I don't know. Next time
Ricard?
on Survivor, man, it convinced. I feel like Chantel plays the idol and Ricard goes home or something like that. I don't know.
Plot twist. I'm going to say Deshaun next week.
Ooh,
Could be.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Say Deshaun. I'm gonna say Chantel sniffs it out and somehow pulls enough people together to save herself.
Who would she pull? Who would Liana? It would have to be somebody other than Liana, Ricard, and Chantel because we know that's a 3.
Who would Chantel pull? So it's what, eight people remaining?
8 people.
Yeah.
They pull Xander.
Here, I'll pull up the graph.
Xander's extra vote, get 5 votes, flip the script on Deshaun and Danny.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that because I could easily see it going the other way now that we've seen Chantel like basically set her sights on getting Erica out. Mm-hmm. I'm like, and we've seen for weeks now, we've seen Deshaun wanting to get basically just getting frustrated with Shan. So I'm like, are the pieces aligning for this to blow back in her face? I don't know.
I could also see Heather. And the reason I say that is because I remember episodes in the past where like huge powers clash, and instead of fighting to the bitter end to see if one of them goes, they both just kind of like, okay, let's just take the easy vote for now and clash more down the road. So I could also potentially see Heather.
Who else has an extra vote? Deshaun, right?
No, he used it. He used it on Sydney or on Evie.
Yeah.
Who else has one? Is it just
That's
Xander?
It. There's just Xander's got an idol, an extra vote, and Shan has an idol.
That's it.
You know what's crazy?
I'm having such a hard time keeping.
We're in season 41, 9 episodes, about to hit episode 10. We've had 0 idols played. Like that's to me the biggest. Like, this is like this new era of the show. But I'm like, if anything, it's gone way back as far as like gameplay. Where in the older seasons, it used to be like, like you get somebody with an idol and they just hold it all season, and then maybe don't even play it. I do think there's a pretty strong likelihood we'll get an idol next week. I'm just surprised.
What's the last season where no idol was played at all? Was it Tocantins?
Wow. Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, maybe. Because I'm like,
I don't even mean successfully played. I mean just played.
No, just in general. Yeah. Tocantins didn't have. Well, was one played on? No, it wasn't. Brandon got blindsided within his pocket.
Snuffed would know. Snuff, tell us the answer.
Snuff.
Hey, what's up, Snuff? I think we're gonna see an idol played at least one, unless they get like Shan completely blindsided next week. Because you don't need Xander doesn't need to play his idol. I think Xander just needs to use his extra vote and pull in the people if he can. But
is an idol gonna go back into play now that one's been?
I don't think so. I personally think they're not gonna do it. I think they're gonna leave it the way they are. I think we're gonna have 2 idols for the rest of the season. I think that might be a bigger change to what the show is doing on the back end. That we are, and especially given the way it's gone, I do think they sort of occasionally will do things on the fly, depending on how the season is going. Like Palau was supposed to have a swap. They didn't do a swap because, hey, let's just watch the tribe get demolished. I do think they'll do things on the fly if it makes for better TV. I could see like Jeff just being like, there's still 2 idols. It's compelling. Let's just go with it. Leave it the way it is. Because they had to activate them all, and they're obviously not going to do that again. Like,
right.
I think that's like the current idols.
And
just
I
like
think
that is definitely back to basics a little more than.
I think the 2 people that have the idols right now are a very interesting 2 to have it. It's not just like if Heather had one. If it was like Heather and Chantel, then I probably wouldn't be as excited. But
yes, Snuff got it. It was Korong. That was it. I knew it was. There was like one season.
Shoot.
No, because Ty blindsided them.
Korong.
Yeah, Korong didn't have an idol play. It had an
That's
extra
right,
vote.
because Ty held them all. Yeah, forgot.
Ty held them all. He didn't face any trouble. Scott got blindsided with one in his pocket. He did play his extra vote. This is like the whole extra vote stuff. Ty did play an extra vote on Michelle. Didn't matter.
I'm so surprised. That's an interesting statistic that an extra vote has never made the difference, because when the extra vote was introduced to Survivor, I was like, well, this is going to be epic. When there's a tie, somebody's going to break the tie. I can't believe it's never happened.
It's literally never happened in all the times extra. I'm like, even now, I just started realizing this week, as of the last 24 hours. Like, I made a video not recently about people who have screwed up with all these advantages, and Dan Foley is in one of them. And I'm like, yeah, I remember when this first popped up in Worlds Apart. I was like, oh my god, this is this is crazy. They've never in 30 seasons had a player cast a second vote. Are you kidding me? And that's what Dan's reaction was. Is like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I'm like, this is kind of crazy. Like, this is fundamentally massive for what the game. Now it's like nothing today. And we're at this point now, 11 seasons later, where I'm like, honestly, extra vote, kind of weak. Like, it's proven itself to not really be that great. Even the steal a vote, I'd say, is a better vote because you're at least taking away a vote from an enemy.
Yeah, steal vote's almost kind of like getting 2 votes.
Yeah, you get 2 votes, but you're not adding a vote to the vote pool. You're just taking away a vote from a person you don't think is going to vote with you, which is great.
Right.
I would rather have that than have an extra vote. I would rather have an extra vote at the end of the day than anything, but
I also feel like we've kind of been unlucky as fans. I feel like the people who have found the extra votes and steal votes haven't been the people who would have used them in interesting and creative ways thus far.
I just think it's just they're so circumstantial. It's really hard to like. It's already hard enough in Survivor to know exactly how every vote's going to fall, especially as the seasons get more and more chaotic as they've been doing. So like, you're just like kind of gonna pile like most. Shan is also the first person to ever split the extra vote between their regular vote and the extra vote. It's never happened. It's happened with vote steals, but nobody's ever had 2 votes and split them between 2 people. Like Steven did it with the vote steal, but not the extra vote. And it's like, it's partially, I think there's a reason for that is because it's so tricky to pin down exactly what's happening and like who's voting where. And you usually see people use extra votes earlier when they just want to dogpile and create a majority, like Debbie did to Ozzy in Game Changers. She used their extra vote. Ty tried to use it on Michelle at the end of Co Wrong, and he put both votes. That didn't happen. Kellen almost did. Kellen put both of her votes on Michael, or was going to put 1 vote on Michael, 1 vote on Laurel to prevent an idol play, but then Michael didn't have an idol and she freaked out. So she put both of her votes on Michael or on Laurel. That was really calm. It was actually at the same time as this episode was. Very similar move, actually. Wendell did this very similar thing that Ricard and Shan did tonight or last night. I've talked about it. It's one of my favorite votes in Modern Survivor, and it was because of the extra vote. But yeah, the extra vote's not very strong. It's just not a very strong advantage at the end of the day. It's super situational. I think playing defensively is way more of a smart tactic to use it for, to just protect yourself from getting the majority of the votes, or stop your opponents from doing stupid things and voting you out if you can help it.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, as we cap off this episode, me and Gideon wanted to announce 1 or 2 things, but Peridiam, did you have any exciting things coming up? Anything on your channel you wanted to mention here?
Just the usual. I'm making these videos. New video every Wednesday at the moment. Survivor's on. I'm going to be out of town for the last 2 weeks, so I'm actually like planning way ahead, looking into it. I think at
Vacation?
some point... Yeah, kind of going out of town for the first time since COVID happened. I'm going to I'm going to Calgary in Canada.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be freezing out there. I've never been in such cold weather before.
Okay.
The coldest I've ever been was New York City, actually. So we'll see if we can top it.
Oh my gosh.
But so I'm actually I think the one thing I'm going to do is I'm working right now is putting together like the best of video for the end of the year. This is for the last week of of 2021. And I'm probably going to put out like an audience poll to gauge what people's thoughts are on all of these, either on one category or all the categories of like, who would you vote for the best player in Survivor for 2021? What was your favorite episode? What was the best move made from these nominees? So I guess that's the one thing to look out for is probably starting in December, I'll put out a link to that. And I'm curious to see both where we're at with Survivor 41 at that point, because we won't have a winner most likely, and also like what the audience thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So.
Definitely go check out Peridiam's channel. We are still doing memberships to our channel, so if you go to our channel's page, right next to subscribe, you can hit join. At the moment, we have 2 tier ranks. With both tier ranks, you get a free entry into our raffle where we're giving off this guy right here.
Ooh.
The Survivor 41 merge buff. So you get free entry into that. You also get a chance to, if you're a member, you can see all of our interviews with past contestants before they air. We pre-record all of our interviews just in case they say something they didn't mean to, and we can edit it out later, which, believe it or not, has already happened multiple times. We'll get an email the next day saying, you didn't air that yet, did you? And we'll have to change something. But you can see it before we edit it out. So,
that's kind of dangerous.
Or if you're our,
are we live right now? Oh shit! No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Or if you're our top tier, you can actually have the opportunity to sit in on some of the interviews. After the season, we have interviews coming up with Coach, with Penner, with Andrew Savage, and a couple others, and you'll get the opportunity to actually sit in on them, maybe say hi, ask a question or two. So definitely check out our membership page. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment who your guys' winner picks are. I feel like a lot of people this season, usually at this time of the year, unless it's like this time of the season, unless it's like an all returnees, it's an all newbie season. Usually around this time, it's already down to like 2 or 3 people we think are going to win. But honestly, I could see just about anyone whose name doesn't start with an H win this game at the end of it. So tell us who your guys' winner picks are. Is that it?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Cut it. I can't. I'm on my phone.
I'll cut it. Eric is going to win